And I think this is one of the best resources we provide on our website, not just for investors, but even for young immigration attorneys who are just starting out and looking to possibly get into the EB-5 space, right? So here we've got kind of a template cover letter. And one of the things that I learned when I first worked at Clasco, which is one of the preeminent kind of EB-5 law firms in the industry, you want to have proof for every statement that you make, okay? So if you say that, you know, petitioner owns 20% of this house residing at this address, you want to be able to show an asset valuation letter right after that statement's proving exactly that. This narrative that we provide to USCIS, it tells the story of how the funds were obtained lawfully, but it's not going to be the end all be all. You don't want to make statements in this letter that can't be substantiated with documentation in the exhibits. So I think a really good rule of thumb and one of the best ways to learn and one of the best ways to check really when you're going over this letter is every statement that you make is followed by an exhibit that is a document that proves exactly what you are saying. Can you use the same document or same exhibit multiple times? 100%. But you want to make sure that any statement that you're making as you write these letters or as the attorney is writing these letters shows, hey, here's the exhibit that qualifies the statement that I'm making to prove to you that what I'm saying is 100% true. And then, yeah, you kind of see exactly here, like how we normally frame this, like, okay, this person owns this property, right? Or sorry, in this case, yeah, like this percentage of this property, which is valued at this much at 100%. Therefore, you know, if their shares are, let's say they own 20% of a property that's worth $1 million, their share would then be $200,000, right? If at 20%. So it kind of follows from there. You really want to, I don't want to say spin the story, but you want to put together the story in a way that reads linearly. You want to start at the beginning and end up at the end, which is the $800,000 that you're going to be investing. And for every statement that you make, you want to prove that with a qualified exhibit.
And Ahmed, I think this would be a good time to maybe spend a few minutes talking about requests for evidence. What is a request for evidence? You know, why do you want to avoid it? How common is it? And yeah, just how do we avoid it? And I guess first, what is it? And why do investors need to be aware of it as they're kind of getting their initial application assembled?
Yeah, so you know, we refer to it lovingly as an RFE, but an RFE is a request for further evidence from USCIS for in any case. In the EB-5 context, almost always you're going to see this on source of funds. The practical effect is it puts a deadline on when you can basically reply with the information that they've provided or that they've asked for. So when you get an RFE, you usually get 90 days to respond. And within that 90 days, you have to gather any evidence that USCIS finds lacking on the record, okay? Why is this bad? Well, one, they've already found that whatever was submitted in your initial application was not sufficient. This is basically them saying like, hey, you already messed up, but we're gonna give you a chance to kind of correct it, okay? The problem is this is kind of like your last chance, right? If something is now deficient and at this point you've already kind of created that sense that USCIS is like unhappy with what they've received in your petition, you're gonna have to really wow them with your response and provide them with everything that you've got so that they become satisfied. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is you can definitely get delayed as a result as well, right? So this was an application that the adjudicator had picked up, they were looking through it, they were kind of getting to the point where they might even be able to approve you, and then they realized that there were some pretty key deficiencies and they decided now to ask for that evidence in an RFE. So that can delay your case further. Who knows if they'll pick it back up immediately once they receive the response. It could be several weeks, months, maybe even a year later. All that's very possible. So you want to avoid it as much as possible. Working with an attorney who can kind of issue spot, and really that just comes with experience, not just in years, but in the number of cases that you've done. The more you see different situations and things that happen, the better off you'll be as an attorney to kind of see those coming from a mile away and make sure that you take care of them and nip it in the bud before it ever gets to USCIS. So yeah, not necessarily the scariest thing in the world. Getting an RFE does not mean you're going to be denied, but certainly a lot of RFEs can be avoided if you're working with an experienced practitioner who understands exactly what USCIS is going to ask. And in some cases, the decision is made to go ahead and submit with maybe a few documents that are missing because they're going to be very cumbersome to get. And you can always submit those later, or in the event that USCIS even does issue an RFE, you can submit them then. But it's really kind of a good conversation to have with your attorney, like, hey, what is the risk factor here? Because I'm missing XYZ document. How important do you think this is? And do you think we should file, or do you think I absolutely have to get this first, even if that means delaying my application for 2, 3, or longer months before I put it in?